Justice Hill is the back. Likely in motion, he bobbles it. Scoops it in, vacuums it home. Here comes Hubbard. Oh, he threw him away like a rag doll. And he throws in the end zone. Caught! Caught for a touchdown! Caught for a touchdown by Likely! Absolutely amazing! How in the world did he keep it together and then find the open receiver?
Like the entire stadium just went quiet. First of all, he drops the snap and he can't get it. And he's trying to look up. Hubbard nearly has the sack right there. He extends the play to the boundary, and before going out of bounds and taking a hit from Pratt.
So first things first, I want to shout out, all the NFL players that we're seeing. We're seeing some pretty good play this season. I mean, you got Patrick Mahomes, Chiefs 15-2. Jared Goff's going off. I mean, Joe Burrow, we saw what he was doing this year with the Bengals. I mean, ice cold. Josh Allen, of course, Saquon, Derrick Henry, and of course the video today is about Lamar Jackson. Now, I want to shout out all these guys because they're all phenomenal players. A lot of these guys deserve to be in the MVP discussion for sure. But I mean, ultimately, there's only one award. Now, this video isn't particularly about the MVP, but it's more about, let's just look at Lamar Jackson's career and let's really just understand what we're watching. Because I mean, at this point, it's getting to the point where it's undeniable that he's a top talent. If he retired tomorrow, he'd probably be Hall of Fame bound based on what his career has been thus far, because we can't ignore facts. Now, I'm not going to be one of these people, saying that Josh Allen is this for talking about anybody else, disparagingly, because I think it's silly. Also, I really would suggest people stop saying things like Lamar's Josh's dad or Josh is Lamar's dad. Don't be saying disrespectful stuff like that, man. These are grown men. These are grown-ass men, excuse my French. Let's stop, referring to them in that kind of manner. Like, you wouldn't want nobody talking about you like that. Let's stop being so disrespectful. I see that stuff with Luka and basketball talk all the time as well. It's crazy. But, I mean, these guys, don't be feeling bad for whoever doesn't win MVP. These guys are millionaires. I guarantee you, if Lamar wins it, Josh is going to still go to sleep as a millionaire. If Josh wins it, and he could, Lamar's still going to go to sleep as a millionaire. What these two really need to be concerned about after we're done going through the video is taking out the Chiefs. That's what they really need to be concerned with outside of just this award. But we're going to talk about LJ, and some of the things that he's done in his career. Because, I mean, really it's kind of mind-boggling when you think about some of the accomplishments. And you look at his rookie year, took over the spot from Joe Flacco. They went 6-1 with him as a starter. They finished off with a winning record, I believe. I know for sure they went to the playoffs because they played the Chargers that year. He didn't look that hot. Next year he comes back as a starter. Man throws like 30 plus. I think it was 36-6 he went that year. Led the league in passing touchdowns. That's something they can never take from him, even though they talk about his arm. That's something they can never take, that he led the league in passing touchdowns that year. And, I mean, he was dominant on the ground. We saw that run game, what he was doing against the Bengals. That was before Joe Burrow got there. But we saw what he did against the Bengals that year. I mean, the plays he had, I particularly remember the one against the Seahawks where he converted for 4th down. I remember the Texans game where he went against Deshaun Watson back when Watson was still nice. They took care of the Texans real easy. I mean, it was very clear that year he was going to be a dominant player. And that MVP, unanimous, it was well-deserved. It was almost like that Steph Curry year where it was unanimous, where it was like, I mean, there's really no discussion. Now, if you look at his next few years after that, he had some injury issues, and it kind of just shows you his value to that team for the Ravens. When he wasn't playing, you notice that the Ravens made no playoff noise whatsoever. In fact, the year that Joe Burrow and the Bengals went to the Super Bowl, which is a great run, it's a shame they couldn't finish that great run to the Super Bowl. That's actually the year that Lamar Jackson got hurt. I believe, I forget what kind of injury he had that year. But I know for sure he got hurt because I think they had Huntley playing in that playoff game versus the Bengals, and the Bengals had a great run all the way there. They took down the Chiefs en route to a Super Bowl appearance. They weren't able to close the show, but great run. But you see Lamar Jackson's value when he's out. They're not able to actually execute. And every time he's been out the last 2 seasons that he was, the Ravens were leading the AFC North until he got injured. So it does go to show that's kind of his division for the time being. Now, if you look at the last 2 years, I mean, the reason I'm bringing this up is because we have to start looking at it for what it is. It seems like every season that he's actually healthy and he can finish the season, it's like he's going to win the MVP or he's going to finish first team All-Pro, basically do both. Because, I mean, last season, he had a great season. Obviously, I mean, after the talks about his contract, whether he was worth it or not, the Ravens didn't have a whole bunch of weapons. and he ended up leading that team to the #1 seed in the AFC. Very impressive, clean pocket play. And if anybody wants to dispute last year's MVP, I mean, really just go back and look at games like against the Lions. I remember I watched that. The Lions were good last year too. It wasn't just this year. They were good last year too. They smoked the Lions. And then you look at the 49ers game. I think that was around Christmas time. Christmas time last year. Christian McCaffrey had a pretty good, convincing argument for MVP until they played the 49ers. I mean, and Brock Purdy as well. And the way the Ravens shut down the 49ers around that Christmas time, it was like the Grinch came in and stole Christmas. I mean, it was very clear the Ravens are on a different level than what they got going on over there in the NFC. Now, that was last year. That was another MVP season. I mean, if you just look at it, his impact definitely was worth it. This season's a little bit more interesting because we have a few different candidates at play here. And I'm not going to talk bad about any of the other candidates. We're not doing that. I don't think you need to, push one's argument down to raise the other one up. Let each stand on their own merits. If you look at them head to head, we did get the luxury of seeing Josh and Lamar play head to head. Now you have to be careful when you start doing this head to head business because Saquon and the Eagles did beat Lamar and the Ravens head to head, where Saquon looked like the MVP. He ran for 2,000 yards. I mean, it's not crazy to say that he should have a big horse in this race. But since the NFL seems to make this, a quarterback-only award, almost, we have to look at the two quarterbacks who were in the running, Josh and Lamar. Now, that was early on in the season. Josh finished off with a better record. Lamar and the Ravens definitely handled business. Derrick Henry went off that game. And for the people who are trying to hold Derrick Henry against Lamar, the reason I wouldn't do that is because if you look at the Ravens' rushing attack the last, 5+ years that Lamar's been there, they're always #1 in the league or top 2 or 3, top 5 in the league when he's playing. And he's usually, I believe, their leading rusher, if I remember correctly, every year since he's gotten there, except for the year when Derrick Henry came this year. He's led the team in rushing. So, I mean, really, it's obviously a tit for tat. They both help each other and open up holes for the other. So definitely you can't hold that against him when other players in history have benefited from playing with great players. I mean, you look at Kurt Warner, Marshall Faulk, they both won MVP at one point. And they were on that same, greatest show on turf team. You look at Peyton Manning and the kind of weapons he had. He had Dallas Clark. Dallas Clark was a beast. Edgerrin James, really nice running back, all-purpose. Shout out to the U. Reggie Wayne, another U star. Marvin Harrison, I mean, weapons all over the place. Tom Brady had Randy Moss for the season. He threw 50 tuds. I mean, if you look at every season, whoever wins MVP, they're going to play with quality players. So it's hard to hold that against them. But I will say that if you look at what he's done this season, 4,000+ yards, I mean, 900+ on the ground, it's kind of unbelievable, specifically because if you look at his passing touchdowns, to the few interceptions that he had when you watch the tape, because I watched the Bills, I watched the Ravens, Chiefs, any good team, I watched them, throughout the year. When you look at the interceptions that they had this year, every single interception hit receivers dead in the hands and popped off their hands into the defender. Now, I'm not going to blame the receivers and say, they're bad or horrible, that Lamar has no one to play with. These are professionals. They're good. Bateman can play. Flowers can play. But all the interceptions that he had, which were very few, they actually hit receivers dead in the hands. So that's something to take into account when you look at the efficiency he's had, because it's already amazing. There's a reason no other player has done 40+ touchdowns passing and less than 5 interceptions with the kind of great passes we've had come through the league. Aaron Rodgers has flirted with it a few times. I mean, Dan Marino, Peyton Manning. You think of some of the gunslingers and, the accurate technicians that we've had, Kurt Warner, Steve Young. And we had some guys really accurate. Drew Brees over there in New Orleans. I mean, it's unbelievable he's doing this right now. And the Saquon argument, not Saquon, the Derrick Henry argument, I would bring that up by using Saquon, actually. Saquon had over 2,000 yards rushing this year. And Jalen Hurts has not had the kind of year that Lamar Jackson has, even though Jalen Hurts is playing pretty good football. So you can't just say that, he's got a 2,000-yard back in the backfield and hold that against him, when really, I mean, you see somebody with 2,000 yards in the backfield and they're not able to put up that kind of production. And if you just look at what he's done in the games that he's played against the other MVP candidates, outside of Saquon, he's handled business. Both times he played against the Bengals, I mean, as you saw from the video earlier, highlights. That first game, they were going toe-to-toe with Joe Burrow. in the Bengals. In the second game, he played horrible. In the first half, Lamar, he played horrible. And then the second half, he came out, guns blazing, and the Ravens and him took over. He had a beautiful jump throw in the back of the end zone. I think it was to Bateman, that second Bengals game. No, definitely there's a lot of MVP level moments, a lot of no-look throws, jumping throws. The game on Christmas as well. I mean, every big game he shows up, shows out. And it's definitely an MVP level season. Now, the reason I say this is because if you just look at his career in total, he's played 5 years. And he's only finished 3 years perfectly healthy in terms of starting the entire year, start to finish. And this is going to be MVP number 3 if he does win it, out of 5 years and 3 out of 3 healthy years, which is pretty scary. Now, if we look at the playoffs, that's a whole different aspect for a whole nother video. But I will say Lamar's gift is also going to be his curse. He's going to have to get that monkey off his back in the future to kind of shut down a lot of this talk about his legacy, because, I mean, really, it's undeniable, his greatness. Let's just be straight up. I don't dig right. I don't do none of that stuff on this channel. You guys know me if you watch any other videos. But the man is obviously on his way to being in that greatest of all time discussion. Now, he's got to get some things cleared up in the playoffs before you can even open that door. But he's in that conversation where he can maybe knock on the door in a few years and be in that Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Lawrence Taylor, Jerry Rice type talk. I mean, if you can capture a few rings, maybe 1, 2, and the way you do it also matters. Now, I want to shout out Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, specifically Saquon. I think Saquon's been getting disrespected a lot in this MVP race. Hasn't been talked about, even though the Eagles are beasting. Giants left him for dead. And this man went over and dominated. But Josh Allen, definitely, let's give him some credit. Lost Stephon Diggs, lost a few key pieces there. But I also don't like that they've been disparaging. When I say they, I mean some of the crazy fans have been disparaging, when they're regarding people like James Cook, really good running back, 1,000-yard running back. And he's also had, I believe, 16 touchdowns, 15 or 16. He's tied for first or second in the league. So Josh isn't playing with scrubs out there. That O-line is pretty good. The defense has picked up their play. I would not disrespect professional athletes like that, saying he's playing with bums. I mean, maybe when I was a teenager, I'll talk like that, but the older you get and the more you're around these kind of guys and you see them in action, you see them play at the high level, you understand the levels to this game, you just kind of realize, okay, let me chill out with that. Let me stop with that. But no, these guys are having amazing seasons. I would lean towards Lamar. I think he's the solid pick, first team All-Pro. I mean, it's kind of going to be crazy to vote against him at this point. But if anybody else is going to win it, I would say Josh or Saquon should be the winners. I don't think it should be Joe. Lamar beat him head-to-head twice in games where Joe made crucial mistakes in terms of throwing a pick or two each game, or making key mistakes on 3rd and 4th down, where Lamar just outshot him. Lamar also outgunned, the Bills, but he didn't have to do too much. Derrick Henry went off that game. And if you look at Saquon also got Lamar when they played head-to-head, and he had an amazing season, 2,000 yards. He could have went for the record. I'm actually glad that they did not let him go for the record, because the Giants, they may have tried some real shiesty techniques and taken him out for the playoffs, and you just can't risk it. The way the Giants look this year, they look horrible, and they definitely don't want to see Saquon break the record on them. I guarantee you they would have paid somebody to put a bounty on Saquon's head for that game if he was going to suit up. So the Eagles actually did the right thing. Everyone's mad at them. That's all right. If you get paid the big bucks, you can be paid to not be liked and supported by the fans. There's a reason the fans are a fan, and you're the head coach in charge. So shout out to these guys. I really think we should just appreciate what we're watching. Lamar Jackson, we got to see more in the playoffs. We got to see it. But for right now, I'm giving you your flowers, man. Top of the line for sure when it comes to regular season play. Definitely, if he retire right now, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. There's plenty of people who've played and they haven't accomplished anything he's accomplished. I mean, not bad for a running back. Last quarterback chosen out of the first round. He had 4 quarterbacks chosen before him. The only team I think that actually can say they can stand on business with their decision and stand firm, 10 toes down, no regrets, are the Bills. They got Josh Allen. Josh Allen is an A-level quarterback. He's better than Joe Burrow in my eyes. He's better than quite a few quarterbacks in the league. I mean, Josh is nothing to sneeze at. So the Bills are the only people who can say that they have no regrets. The Jets, I believe the Cardinals, the Browns, they definitely would love to have Lamar Jackson right now. Make life a lot different. So shout out to him, and I appreciate you guys watching. You know, God bless. Stay out of trouble. You know, stay healthy this year. We're going to put out some more content more consistently. We're finally getting back in a groove. God bless. All right, don't be mad at me. Be mad at yourself.